I came home from the gym one afternoon, tired and ready for a shower. The house felt unusually quiet, and I thought I was alone. My mom and sister weren't around, and for a moment, the silence was almost comforting. Ever since my dad left us years ago, this stillness had become familiar. I dropped my clothes in the middle of the living room, certain no one was home, and headed straight for the bathroom. The hot water washed away the sweat and exhaustion, and I lingered, enjoying the calm. By the time I stepped out, I felt refreshed and careless, walking back into the living room without a second thought. That's when everything changed. My mom and sister were sitting on the couch, staring right at me. My heart froze. I stood there completely exposed, unable to move or say a word. Embarrassment hit me like a wave, and I rushed to grab my clothes, cheeks burning, before locking myself away in my room. For days afterward, the memory haunted me. I tried to convince myself they had forgotten about it, that life had simply gone back to normal. But there was a strange tension that lingered, something unspoken that hung in the air. My sister's behavior especially seemed different, as if she carried some hidden thought or secret. One evening, while I was trying to lose myself in a video game, I heard my door creak open. I looked up and saw her standing there, smiling in a way that told me this moment was far from forgotten. A week passed since that embarrassing day in the living room, yet the memory still clung to me. I convinced myself my mom and sister had brushed it off, but something in the air felt different, like a shadow that wouldn't leave. My sister especially seemed changed, her behavior carrying a strange energy I couldn't quite name. One evening, I sat in my room, lost in a video game, when the door creaked open. She stepped inside with a grin that looked innocent but hinted at something more. At first, it felt like our usual back and forth, teasing, laughing, the same familiar banter we had shared countless times growing up. But this time, there was something underneath, something harder to ignore. Her laughter carried an edge I hadn't noticed before. Her hand brushed my shoulder, her touch lingering just a little too long, as though testing boundaries. I told myself I was imagining things, but as she leaned closer, whispering in my ear or brushing against my arm, the unease grew. It wasn't just playful anymore. I tried to focus on the game, but every small touch drew me away from the screen. A brush against my arm, then my thigh. At first it seemed like nothing, maybe a coincidence. But it happened again, and again. By the third time, I knew it wasn't accidental. I set the controller aside, my chest tight as I turned to face her fully. My words came out sharper than I expected, breaking the playful atmosphere in an instant. Her smile faded, and for the first time, I saw something else in her eyes, surprise, maybe even hurt. The silence that followed was heavier than anything I had felt before, as though the unspoken truth between us had finally surfaced. Walking into a quiet house after a long day, I expected nothing more than peace and solitude. Instead, a single careless mistake led to a revelation that would shake the very foundation of my family. What began as an ordinary moment quickly unraveled into something extraordinary, forcing us to confront truths long hidden beneath the surface. I returned home from the gym, exhausted and desperate for a shower. Believing I was alone, I let my guard down and went about my routine carelessly. The house, still and silent as always, had carried that emptiness ever since my father left years ago. It was a silence I thought I understood, but on that day, it carried a different weight. After my shower, I walked back into the living room, expecting the same stillness. Instead, my mother and sister sat on the couch, their eyes fixed on me. Shock froze me in place. Time seemed to stop as embarrassment consumed me. I grabbed my clothes in a panic and rushed to my room, cheeks burning with humiliation. For days, I tried to convince myself they had forgotten, that life had returned to normal. But there was something in the air, a tension that refused to fade. My sister's behavior, in particular, began to shift. Her smiles carried new weight, her words layered with unspoken meaning. I tried to bury the thought, but curiosity gnawed at me. One evening, while I was lost in a video game, the door creaked open. She entered with a grin, playful as always, but beneath it was something more. At first, it felt like the same teasing banter we had shared for years. Yet her tone, her gestures, carried an unusual sharpness, as if she was daring me to see what lay hidden between us. The silence broke when she asked a question that pierced the air, "What troubles you?" Her voice was light, but her eyes told a different story. The playful sparkle was gone, replaced by something deeper, more unsettling. I tried to dismiss it, telling her we needed to let go of what had happened, to move on as though nothing had changed. But her smirk returned, sharper than before. With words laced in mystery, she hinted at truths I wasn't prepared to hear, things that tied back to my mother, to the past, and to secrets I had never imagined. Confused and shaken, I confronted my mom, desperate for clarity. To my disbelief, she didn't deny what had been said. Instead, she confirmed that there were parts of our family's story I didn't yet understand. That moment shattered the fragile normalcy I thought we had. It wasn't just about embarrassment anymore. It was about hidden desires, unspoken histories, and the way infidelity leaves cracks that never fully close. What I once believed to be a quiet, ordinary family home had become a place filled with secrets, waiting to be uncovered. Her eyes held both hope and sorrow as she finally spoke. "We're your family. We love you. Please don't shut us out." Her words carried the weight of years of loneliness. Since my father left 5 years ago, she had carried the burden alone, keeping everything together, trying to be strong for us, but also yearning for companionship. She admitted how heavy it had been, how quiet the house felt, and how much she longed for closeness and connection again. She spoke about my sister too, reminding me of how young she still was, and how much she struggled without reliable support. "We've all been walking through life separately," she said, her hand tightening around mine. "But what we need is to come together. To feel like we belong again. That's how we heal." The room seemed to freeze in that moment. Her gaze was steady, almost pleading, as though she wanted me to see past the surface and into the heart of what she truly meant. The silence between us was thick, and my chest tightened with confusion. I wasn't sure what to say. Every gesture, every look, carried a weight I wasn't ready to fully understand. It felt like she was pushing me to uncover something hidden, something she believed would restore what we had lost as a family. My thoughts swirled in every direction. Was this really about healing, or was there more she wasn't saying aloud? The air in the room grew heavy with anticipation, each second stretching into an eternity. I sat frozen, unsure of whether to break the silence or let the moment pass. Not a single movement escaped my notice. It felt as though the entire room had shifted, drawing me into a strange enchantment where silence spoke louder than words. Every detail, every glance, carried an energy I couldn't ignore. Something had changed. The air was heavier, the atmosphere filled with meaning I couldn't yet decipher. I wanted to ask what was happening, to demand an explanation, but the words never made it past my lips. I sat there, frozen, while my heart pounded like a drum inside my chest. Her presence grew stronger with every passing moment, and though I didn't fully understand her intentions, I couldn't deny the weight of it. The moment seemed to stretch time itself, bending it around us until all that remained was the unspoken tension and my own confusion. It felt as though I was trapped in two realities at once, one that wanted answers, and another that told me some truths were better left unsaid. As I wrestled with the storm inside me, a whirlwind of emotions surged all at once, curiosity, disbelief, and an unease that lingered just beneath the surface. Everything was happening so quickly, yet each second felt drawn out, like time itself wanted me to face what I was feeling. Something within me shifted that night. A moment arrived when the air grew heavy, and the tension between us became impossible to ignore. My thoughts tangled between the urge to pull back and the temptation to let go, leaving me stranded in a place where reason no longer felt certain. The room seemed to shrink until only the space between us remained. It was in that space I felt the pull, an invisible force that left me breathless. I saw the possibility of crossing into something unspoken, something dangerous yet magnetic, and the thought unsettled me. I found myself caught in visions of what could be, each one pressing harder against the walls of restraint I had built around myself. It wasn't just desire, it was a hunger for connection, for closeness, for something that promised to fill the emptiness I had carried for so long. In that moment, everything else faded. The world disappeared, leaving only us, suspended in a silence that was louder than words. My heart pounded so fiercely it felt like the sound filled the room. My breath quickened, shallow and uneven, as if each inhale pulled me closer to something I wasn't sure I was ready to face. The space between us seemed alive, charged with an energy that blurred the world outside. In that moment, it was as if nothing else existed, just us and the silence vibrating with possibility. This wasn't about simple longing. It was something deeper, a connection that felt like it had been building all along, waiting for the right moment to surface. Every choice, every twist of fate, seemed to lead here, to this instant where time refused to move forward without demanding a decision. The pull was undeniable. My thoughts swirled with visions of what it would mean to give in, of how far it could go and how impossible it would be to turn back. Yet the more I tried to resist, the more the weight of unspoken desires pressed against me, demanding release. And then, without hesitation, we let go. The boundaries we had clung to dissolved, leaving only raw emotion and unfiltered truth. It was reckless, thrilling, and liberating all at once. For the first time in a long while, restraint had no place between us. It felt like breathing for the first time after being underwater for too long. Casting aside the quiet voices of caution was both terrifying and exhilarating, as though we had finally broken free from chains we didn't even realize we were wearing. Every step forward carried us deeper into a storm of fierce energy, a place where reason had no say and passion dictated the rules. Our hearts beat in unison, quickened by thrill, tinged with restlessness, and laced with a rebellion we could no longer ignore. It wasn't just about desire, it was about claiming the life we had secretly dreamed of, a life unbound by fear or restraint. And in that moment, those dreams no longer lived only in our minds, they had become real, vivid, and impossible to deny. But hidden beneath the rush, shadows lingered. Choices like these always carried consequences, ripples that spread further than we could imagine. For now, though, those thoughts remained distant, mere whispers we refused to face. Time itself seemed to bend, holding us in a suspended world where only freedom mattered. Every motion, every glance, every unspoken word felt purposeful, as if a part of us long suppressed had finally been set free. We pressed forward without hesitation, fueled by the intoxicating thrill of fulfillment, blind to whatever fallout might come later. For once, we weren't thinking of tomorrow. We were living completely in the fire of today. This story takes us deep into the emotional storm of forbidden passion. What began as an accidental moment grew into a powerful pull that neither caution nor reason could contain. Boundaries faded, restraint dissolved, and what was once hidden in silence came to life in a rush of intensity. At its core, this tale is about desire versus consequence. The characters stepped into a world where passion ruled and tomorrow's price was ignored. In choosing to live recklessly, they discovered freedom, thrill, and a taste of something larger than life. Yet behind the fire was always the looming shadow, reminding us that every choice leaves ripples, and no secret remains untouched forever. In the end, the story leaves us with questions: was it worth it? Was the thrill strong enough to outweigh the risk? Or will the weight of their choices resurface when they least expect it? One thing is clear, infidelity stories like this are not just about betrayal. They are about human vulnerability, temptation, and the fragile balance between what we crave and what we stand to lose. Disclaimer: this story is a dramatized narrative for entertainment and awareness. Any resemblance to real people, names, or events is purely coincidental. Viewer discretion is advised. Thank you for staying with us through this unforgettable true infidelity story. Life teaches us that every choice carries weight, and every secret shapes the future. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join our community for more real-life tales of love, betrayal, and lessons learned. Your support means everything, and together we'll keep uncovering stories that inspire, shock, and move us. Stay tuned, more powerful stories are on the way.